All right. So today, what we're going to be doing is looking to pin activities. So if there's a note, task, something like that that's important, we want to be able to get that and bump it to the top of the activities list. So let's take a look at how that can work. So, all right. So right now we have these activities that are kind of show up in the main section here. We want to be able to hit a button. That would just pop. I think that would indicate on here that it's been pinned, but it also put a second copy of it at the top of the list. So there were duplicates, and this is I've seen some CRMs where it does pull it out of the flow. So if you have if you pin this note, it's going to go to the top, and then it's not going to be in the list. But to me, that kind of doesn't make sense because then you kind of might lose that context of it. The other thing that this is going to support is multiple pins. So if you, and it's still going to be sorted in the same order. I don't think that will let you resort that or anything like that. So it's still going to stay in the same chronological order, but you're not limited to just pin one thing. I like the idea of having flexibility on that. So to do that, we're going to need to do a couple things. So we're going to want to come in here, and we're going to need to add a new pinned field. So we'll do Rails G migration. The thought I had in my head is, do I want to make this a Boolean where it's just yes, pinned, not? We can also do a pinned at. That would actually give a timestamp. I usually do a timestamp just because it sometimes you want to know when it was pinned. I will. So this is a generic feature, so it's going to be available for any activity. So it's going to be added to the activity model, not to the note itself, because that gives a lot of flexibility, which is nice. So there's migration add pinned at to activities. Now that's going to be a date time. And activities pinned at date time. This can be null. It has no default, so that looks good. All right. So we'll migrate that up, and let's just manually pin something. So if we come in here and take a look at what this is note 33. So if we go to notes, activities for source ID is 33. So that's note 33. We'll say this is pinned now. So that's going to be pinned. All right. So if it's pinned, then let's do an indicator on that. So if we go to note.html.erb, let's do something in here and do just for a quick test, pinned at. And this is going to blow up, I think. Yeah. For any of them that are not nil, we'll go if note.pinned at, because it's on the activity. So we're getting pinned at nothing, pinned at time. Now that's actually interesting because so this is where we have that terribly named activity-able, where I might want to put something there that delegates down to the activity automatically. But okay, that works. So that way you can now see that it's been pinned. So if I now go to the, what are we on, the person? Yeah. So if I go to the person show, people show. All right, we've got the activities that we're rendering in here. So activities, then we render the person. So in here, so what I'm wondering is if I want to do something like pinned activities on here, or kind of keep it all together. I'm inclined to say for now to say activities renders everything, so it's all in one place. But that's something I might have to consider. Okay, so we're actually gonna just bust this out and duplicate this. And so we have our pinned activities, and this is going to be our activities.pinned, and we're going to render the activities, and I don't want to show no pinned if there are no pinned. So this should now yell at us about the pinned not being a thing. Right? So let's add that. New scope. And this would be where pinned at is that the right way? I think it is. Okay. So that is good. And in here, let's actually just put into here a div class, border bottom, border red 400. Just make sure I'm not missing it. All right, so that gives us the pinned ones up top and the unpinned ones below. And now this is someone show below. So if I hop over to somebody, hop to the same person. So this now gives that line always. We don't want that. So this one here, if it is the only one, then we are going to have it be hidden. All right, better. So now if we go back to Joe Blow, cool. So let's make this something a little bit more reasonable. Okay. All right, so we've got our pinned activity at the top, our unpinned at the bottom. It's not a great indicator, but now we need to make the toggle to switch between the two of them. Okay, so in our note, we're gonna do something in here where we go button to, and this will be our activity, pin path for our note dot activity, and the method on this is going to have to be so note dot activity pinned. So if it's pinned, we want to unpin it, so we want to destroy. Sorry, delete. And if it's not pinned, we want to create. So we want to do a post. Let's see if I got that right. And you know, this is getting for right now, just to make this a little bit more readable. If it's pinned, then we will do button to activity pin path activity method delete. Wow, I'm having a hard time typing today. Sorry about that. All right, it's complaining about not having pinned, which of course it doesn't. Oh, that is not what I thought it was. I'm gonna read my code before. Should be time for a Boolean pinned. Undefined activity pin path. Yep, because we don't have a route. Okay, so for this route, it's going to be a little bit weird because we actually don't use resources anywhere for this. We actually would want to do resources, activities, do, and then a resource under here of pin. This can only be a create or destroy. So if we do that, that will give us Rails routes. So this is going to give us, this gives us all the activity routes in here that we don't really want. So and where are the pinned ones? Activities. Oh, there. Okay, so let's see. These ones are the routes that I do want. So we have our activity pin. So that's good, but I don't want those other ones. So let's just do only nothing. And I also want these to be in an activities module. I can never remember if I need this to this, if I can do this as a activities. All right, let's see if that looks right. I'm going too far back. Here we go. So we've got activity pin, and that's going to activities /23/pin, and it's going to activities pins destroy. Yep, that looks good. All right. So this note can now be unpinned. So that one can be unpinned. This one can be unpinned, which doesn't seem right. What did I do there? Yeah, there we go. Okay, so now I can pin this one, and I can unpin that one. Perfect. Okay, so let's actually look at the, so if we go to our controllers, activities, pins, controller. So we want to do a create to story. Okay. So the activity is going to be, so I need to start doing some stuff to scope this, all activities to the account. That's something that's on the to-do list. But for right now, I'll just not worry about that. Activity.find params. All right, so we submit it, we change the pin status, and then we're going to render out the turbo stream for this. So we go into the views, pins. So we have our create.turbostream.erb. Okay, so we're going to need to do something a little bit. So we actually have a little bit of a problem right now. Inside of here, we've got our Note 33, and down here, we've got our Note 33 as well. Boom. So that's going to be we shouldn't be doing that for starters. Okay. So how do I want to handle that? What I want to do probably is want to do something like pinned Note 33 on there. So to do that, let's think. So if we go to our activities, we can do a render activity. Let's do this. Let's do that polymorphic render of the activity, and we're going to do on here pinned. So now we got the activity pinned, which is not in there. So we go activity, new file, and we're basically going to do polymorphic render and just pass that down. So now we're looking for notes pinned. So in here, what I want to do in here is go something like render note with note of note, and I want to pass something in DOM suffix of pinned. And in here, I want to do something like, I'm trying to remember what it is. I think it's the locals. Local assigns. Yeah. Yes, that's what we want to do. So if I pass that in, if that's nil, that's going to be fine. So now if I inspect this, we've got pinned Note 33. And down here, we've got plain old Note 33 is right here. All right, so now we can split between the two of them. I'll have to do that for all the other activities, but that keeps it generic, keeps us reusing the same stuff, and that works well. Okay, so in our create, so if we are creating a pin, then that means that we want to re-render the non-pinned. That way it gets updated, and append the pinned. Right? So all right, and I've been jumping out of Turbo Streams for a while, so I'm going to be a bit rusty, so sorry for that, but let's take a look. So when we pin, we're going to want to do a turbo stream dot, and we're going to append to the pinned activities. And here we're going to be appending actually I went back into that. We're going to want to bring this activity in. So we are going to so we're going to do a polymorphic render on the activity with pinned. So that should throw it up on the pinned section. And we're going to want to do a turbo stream.replace the DOM ID of the activity. And we want to replace that with a normal non-pinned activity. Which we can just do that. Yeah, I think that will work. Let's see. So if we pin this, undefined method, polymorphic render. Well, it did pin, so it's working. That's good. Let's do I have another note somewhere? Let's pin that and render add activity, missing activities. Let's be less creative and just reuse the same thing. All right, let's pin this. Activity / notes _ note. Activity. I need to probably just use that. Actually, let's remove the pins on some of these. That way I have to stop scrolling around to kind of find them. All right, so let's pin this and unpinned. So we want to pre-pin this. We're putting it the very end of this as a line, the final element, and that is a line. So that's something I have to maybe consider switching around. But so now it's pinned, and it's not updating. So let's see what this is doing. Let's clear that out. Let's go and pin this. Let's see what we're getting from the network. So when we pin, so we're prepending, and that works. And we're placing activity 57. That's why. So this isn't the DOM activity ID of the activity. This is the DOM ID of the activity.source. So if we pin, then that is now unpin, and up here is the pinned one. All right, so let's do the, this is basically going to be the same. So pinned is false, save that. And if we hop down to the destroy.turbo stream.erb, and here it's going to be quite similar. So we want to replace it again because we're updating that node, but we also want to, I think it's remove. Remove. And that's going to be the DOM ID of the activity.source, and it's the pinned one. So let's see if that works. All right. So what was going on there is I just had a typo. I didn't remove the do. So I can pin this, unpin it, pin it, unpin it, refresh, pin it. All right, that works. Okay, so we can now pin and unpin, and that works. And if we go and close everything, which is not what I wanted to do. So if we go into the so for the node, we have this chunk of code. If we bring that over to emails and put that into the email, and if we bring that over to the task, none of that is going to stay here. This is ugly, obviously. And if I do actually all the right replacements, task and email. So we now have the email here. We can pin that. And we need to put in the, yep. So emails, this is going to have our email pinned .html.erb, and we're basically going to do the exact same thing for all of these. Emails, email, 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 DOM suffix pinned. And I'm just going to check in a minute. Oh yeah, we'll leave that for now. So if I, so now I've that, so I've got an email pinned, I've got a note pinned, and let's pin a task, and it's going to yell at us. All right, so here, I'm just going to check this out. Can I do render task DOM ID pinned? Yes, we can. So let's just cut this all redundant crap out, and note. We can cut out all of that. Beautiful. So now I can unpin the, and it didn't. And that's because in the note, I added the local assigns in here. So for email, that has to be in there as well. And for the task, we have to have that in there. So we unpin, pin, that's what I was worried about happening. That's coming from emails pinned, application polymorphic render. Okay. All right, so unpin, unpin, pin, pin. Oh. All right, so there we go. Pinning and unpinning of things work. Yeah, I don't know if you need to indicate or anything to say that this is the pinned ones, but what we're going to want to be doing is a few other improvements. So views, activities, pins. We're gonna, I don't know, call this pin button .html.erb, something like that. This is where we're going to want to pull in this. So if we put this into render activities / pins / pin button, let's just call this button, pin button, and our activity is going to be task.activity. We do something like that. Then in our pin button, we can have our activity pinned, then go to activity like this, and that was set up on the so that's on the task, so we can unpin and repin, so that's still working, and that means that we can basically put that in all of them. And this is the note, and this is the email. So that now is the same everywhere and is all being copied. And that means I can now do my final piece, which is if I go into that activity button, I can change this from being hideous to something a little bit better. So I can do and here I can do a inline. Oh, I'm not going to kid myself. I'm going to look this up. I got to try to look it up. All right. I don't know. To pin it, it's going to be red. To unpin it, it's going to be blue. And let's just see if this. Of course, I copied the only one that doesn't have an example. I think X mark is one of them. Okay, so that works. That's not the icon I want to be using. So if we go to Heroic Cons, do they have a pin? Map pin. I'm looking for a push pin. Maybe a bookmark. Or yeah, we could do bookmark. That's not exactly what I'm looking for, but it's fine. All right, so if you are going to, if you want to pin it, let's make it outline. So if it's pinned, it's going to be solid. If it's not pinned, it's going to be outline. And that's not one of the 24 outline is what it's going to have to be. All right. Yeah, something like that. So there you go. It's bookmarked, not being pinned, but do something along those lines. So it's not positioned right. We're going to have to move it up to the actions corner or something like that, or have it drop down to do that toggle. But conceptually, yeah, this now works. If I wanted to do something like that. There we go. There, you've got basic pinning. All right, so anyways, that's kind of the whole thing in a nutshell. This gives us a generic pinning system. It works, it can have unlimited number of pins to it. You can add and remove things dynamically. There's no JavaScript involved, which is nice. Everything's kind of just server rendered. We're reusing a ton of the templates, and all that work just kind of works. And yeah, that's kind of the whole idea. So yeah, see you till next time.